Congo's President Bazoum is fast approaching. The junta has announced it is cutting off ties with France, Nigeria, USA, and Togo. It does appear that the situation is getting worse and worse.
Well, absolutely. And I must say, it is worrying. Because any attempt by ECOWAS to intervene militarily would pose a serious security threat to the wider West African sub-region that is already reeling from the effects of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Despite the fact that Ukraine is far from Africa, Africa was hard hit by the war. So you can imagine if it happens next door. And this is further compounded by the Burkinabes and the Malians saying that any act of aggression against Niger would be tantamount to a declaration of war against them. And let's not forget that Niger is a big country. Ghana has a landmass area of about 238 square kilometers, while Nigeria has about 930,000 square kilometers. Ghana 238,000, Nigeria 930,000. Niger has a landmass area of about 1.27 million square kilometers. So it's a huge country, and that would complicate any attempt to intervene militarily. Okay, already we are dealing with Jenin, Al-Qaeda and ISIS-affiliated groups. Nigeria is dealing with Boko Haram, which it has not been able to defeat. So if we are starting a new front altogether, trust me, it's going to be catastrophic.
Catastrophic, as you say, but what we got, which was intel leaked memo within the Nigerian military some days ago, was that already the army is being moved to enforce a no-fly zone. With the coup leaders cutting ties, how do we begin to resolve the situation?
Well, I mean, it beats my imagination. You say no-fly zone. Yes, we have French and other European aircraft going into the country to evacuate their citizens. So the no-fly zone, I don't know whether it's specific to certain flights. Okay. The thing is getting complicated by the day. And I think it's Tinubu who is behind all of these warmongering. I think that in the midst of all the provocations, the cutting of ties, the closure of borders, the sanctions. By the way, sanctions don't affect the equipists. It affects innocent people. We need to still look at it from the diplomatic angle. We need to put more pressure on them to address it. And by the way, it is also important to understand that it is not only soldiers that engage in coup. Civilians also sometimes engage in coup, and it's called constitutional coups. Okay, so when you look at the African Charter, to be specific, Article 23 is specific about prolonging your stay in office. It's also a coup. Manipulating the constitution to prolong your stay is a coup. Engaging in electoral malpractices such as rigging is a coup. Engaging in other electoral malpractices like gerrymandering is a coup. So ECOWAS should look at this issue holistically. What is currently happening in Senegal is disturbing. The disbanding of the opposition and the arrest of Ousmane Sonko, I think it's a coup. What happened with the case of Alassane Ouattara extending his stay is a coup. What happened with the case of Alpha Conde in Guinea that resulted in many lives lost is a coup. Adam Barrow's insatiable desire for more power and wanted to extend his stay could amount to a coup.
And these are all possible security crisis situation, really, particularly in the Senegal situation, waiting to happen because the unrest has been ongoing for days.
Absolutely. And ECOWAS doesn't seem to care. I mean, theirs is just constricted to military taking over power. And that is what I find really, confusing and ironic. Okay, so our focus should be preventing the military from taking advantage of, the disenchantment and the pain of the people to its advantage. Because a lot of these coups happen before the real coup.
Right.
And we don't seem to be doing anything about it. And let me use this opportunity to appeal to President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. You see, contributing soldiers would amount to fighting somebody's war. And it will be dangerous for us. It would compromise the security of the state because it will be tantamount to declaring war against our neighbor, Burkina Faso. So we need to be very careful.
Mr. Saani, we'll leave the conversation here. I'm sure as and when it continues to develop, we'll come to you for a bit more. That's security analyst Adib Saani speaking to us this afternoon. We'll continue to keep a close eye on the development